No one talked about her directly. They called her the girl from the river's edge. She didn't have a name in the village, at least not one anyone used. She lived alone in a clay hut, surrounded by reeds and frogs and rumors. The children whispered about her when they thought no one was listening, that she never bled during the moon cycle, that her body healed faster than fire could burn, that she was born with a twin that never left. Men avoided her, not out of fear, but out of confusion, because those who tried to touch her came back different, changed, silent. One man stopped eating, another forgot his own name, and the third, he disappeared entirely, leaving only his shirt folded neatly on her doorstep. Then one day, a traveling healer passed through the village. Curious, arrogant, sure of his science, he said there was no such thing as unnatural women, that every story had a reason, until he met her. She didn't speak when he entered her hut. She only looked at him once, and then she disrobed. And what he saw, he never described it, only said, "She has two gates, one of life, one of death." And then he burned all his books and left, walking into the river. After the healer vanished, the whispers became louder. Some said she was cursed, born under an eclipse, touched by something ancient in the womb. Others believed she was blessed, a walking riddle sent by the ancestors, a test no man could pass. But none of them truly knew, except old Mama Dara. She remembered the birth, said it was storming that night, said the baby came out silent, no cry, just open eyes, wide and golden, like they'd seen too much already. The midwives panicked, called for prayers, but Mama Dara saw the truth when she cleaned the newborn. Not one, not two, but 3 scars, where only one should be. They tried to cut it, hide it, bind it, but the child didn't bleed. She just stared, and the midwives swore she whispered something that night, newborn lips forming old words. "She is not a child," Mama Dara had told the chief. "She is a mirror." No one listened. They raised her like a shadow, fed her, but never held her, dressed her, but never named her. And she grew, tall, still, listening, waiting, until one day a merchant's son followed her to the river, charmed, bold, too full of himself. They said he entered her hut at dusk. They said he was smiling. They said he never came out, only a faint scent of smoke and a feather where his heart used to be. After the merchant's son vanished, fear turned into obsession. Men from distant towns came looking for her, not with kindness, but with curiosity. A bet, a challenge, a chance to tame the untamable. She let some of them in. Not all came out. The ones who did were altered. One lost his ability to lie. One started weeping at the sound of children laughing. One could no longer speak unless a woman permitted it. The village called it madness, but the women, they called it balance. They started visiting her secretly, not for advice, for power. They sat in silence at her feet, drank the river water she blessed, burned their pasts in the fire behind her hut. And always, she'd point to her belly and say, "It's not what I carry, it's what I guard." A boy once tried to steal a piece of her clothing to sell in the market as a charm. He never touched it. The fabric twisted like a snake and wrapped around his neck. He lived, but never again looked a woman in the eye. Her legend grew, and so did the warnings. Some said she had 2 wombs, one that birthed children, and another that birthed truth. And only those who could face themselves survived either. If you're still with this story and you're brave enough to see where it leads, subscribe and tap the bell. Some bodies carry secrets older than the world itself, and hers is only beginning to unfold. The chief's son was next, young, educated, back from the city with books in one hand and pride in the other. He called her myth, said the village was ruled by fear and fairy tales, said he'd prove she was nothing but flesh. He didn't knock, just walked straight into her hut, voice loud, back straight. But he came out crawling. He didn't speak for 3 days. On the 4th, he carved words into the dirt outside the square. She showed me myself. I wasn't ready. Then he left. Didn't pack. Didn't look back. The men grew quiet after that. The women didn't. They started painting their bodies with symbols, marks that resembled hers, began bathing in the river at dawn, whispering into the reeds, began asking her for things, not love, not money, permission, guidance, forgiveness. And every time she answered the same way, by lifting her shirt and pointing to the scar just below her navel, the second mouth, the second gate. One woman, barren for years, conceived after kissing it. Another, bruised for decades, left her husband the same night she saw it. It was never about seduction. It was revelation. And the village? It was no longer sure who was teaching who. They came from far away now. Women wrapped in blue cloth from the desert. Girls carried on backs from mountain towns. Elders too old to walk, dragged by daughters who whispered, "She'll undo what life has done to you." They didn't speak to her. They presented themselves, laid down feathers, beads, stories, wounds, and in return, she said nothing. She simply sat. Let them weep. Let them remember. Let them break. Because that was the ritual. She wasn't a healer. She was the mirror. And mirrors do not lie. They only reflect. Then came the foreign man. White shirt, clean shoes, a camera in his hand and a voice like a knife. He said he wanted to document the myth. Said the world had a right to see the woman with 2 private parts. Said truth didn't belong to the jungle. She let him film. All of it. The chants, the symbols, her body. But what he saw in the footage after wasn't what he remembered. The angles were wrong. His voice trembled where it hadn't. The scar on her body moved between shots. The background pulsed. Her eyes followed him through the frame. When he tried to edit, the software crashed. When he tried to leave, the tires melted on his car. When he tried to upload it, the screen blinked and whispered, "She is not your content." The man never left the village, not because he couldn't, but because something in him changed. He gave away his camera, stopped speaking English, started sweeping the square every morning in silence. When asked why, he only said, "She showed me both doors. I stepped through the wrong one." No one asked more. The woman by the river remained. She never aged, never left. Her hut now surrounded by tokens, dolls, bones, letters, bracelets. A shrine built not by her hands, but by the footsteps of every woman who found something in her presence. Some said she was a god who forgot her name. Others said she was the world's first wound, walking. But the truth? It was simpler. She was a woman who didn't belong to anyone, not family, not fear, not flesh. She had 2 gates in her body because the world tried to split her, between submission and survival, and she kept both. And so she remained, watching, waiting, Because every few years, another stranger comes looking, not for answers, but for control, and she lets them in, because the lesson is always waiting to be learned again. Would you dare to face both doors if one showed you your truth and the other showed you what you've been hiding from all along? If this story shook something loose in you, don't miss the next one. Watch this before sending your daughters to school. Some warnings don't come with second chances.